I'm going to make a bold claim. You probably don't know how to read, and I don't mean that you can't recognize the words on a page. I mean that for most of us, reading is just a passive activity. We consume the information, we follow the story, we move on. We let the content happen to us. We are just the spectators. And in a world that's constantly trying to sell us a simplified narrative, some dumbed down political ideology, or some drop-shipped, low-effort product, being a passive consumer is dangerous. But what if I told you that reading like that, like a passive spectator, is just the first stage, and there are actually 4 stages to reading. There are levels of reading that will transform you from a passive, leaky sponge to an active, critical, and masterful reader. According to Mortimer J. Adler and Charles Van Doren's How to Read a Book, most of us will be permanently stuck on level 1. In this video, we're going to change that.
Woof.
The first level is one that we're all familiar with, and it is called elementary reading. It is the pure and mechanical act of recognizing the symbols on a page and knowing what they mean. The fundamental question this stage of reading tries to answer is, what does this sentence say? It is the most fundamental stage. We master this stage at primary school, or at least we should have, and for most of our lives, whether we're scrolling Instagram or scanning headlines or reading a recipe, it's really all we need. But here's the problem. Staying at level 1 leaves you vulnerable. It gives you the illusion of understanding, but it doesn't give you any of the tools for critical thought. And this illusion makes you a passive victim of information. It makes you susceptible to every half-truth, every half-baked argument you encounter. The next 3 levels will help arm you against that. The second level is called inspectional reading, Reconnaissance. It is the art of skimming through a book so that you understand its structure, you understand its main arguments, you understand its purpose before you commit to giving it a deep read.
You made a commitment.
This isn't just casual flipping. You get a sense of the author's intent, the book's structure. You hit the preface, you hit the contents. It's systematic. You flip to the index and you look at the key terms. Have I seen these words before? Where have I seen these words before? What was that book about? You read the first and last paragraphs of the key chapters to get an idea of the arguments. How is the author making them? It's reconnaissance. You're inspecting the terrain. Inspectional reading. You're checking your ammo, you're checking your inventory, you're assessing the mission before you're deciding to engage the objective. And it is by far the most underrated skill for any serious reader. It gives you a mental map of the territory before you begin your journey. Of course, this mostly applies to nonfiction, but use your judgment. It equally applies to fiction too. Once you get good at inspectional reading, it's quick. And in the long term, it will save you a lot of time. Level 3 is called analytical reading. This is where the real fun begins. No longer is reading about gathering information now. It is about deep comprehension.
Get in there nice and deep like.
This is the complete consumption of a book. It is slow, it is active, it is demanding. Well, it's as any of those things as you want it to be. There is no right way to do it. But at this level, you're no longer a spectator. You are in dialogue with the author. And as such, there are several rules that Adler and Van Doren lay out for this level of reading. If you want the comprehensive rules, go out and get this book and fucking read it. That's what this whole channel is about. I want to inspire people to read, but in a nutshell, the rules boil down to this: asking questions. what is the book about as a whole?
What are the main arguments? How are these arguments structured? Are these arguments sound? Are these arguments true?
You start to understand the author's language, their key words, how they use their key words, their proposition. And this is what Adler and Van Doren call coming to terms with the author. So you grab your pen, you underline the words, you scribble in the margins, you argue with the text, agree with it, you disagree with it, cut the book open essentially, and then you just look at its organs to see what makes it live. Analytical reading is the crucial step in moving from being a passive consumer of a book to being the master of it. The final level, level 4, is called synoptical reading. This is where you read multiple books on one topic and you compare and contrast what they say about it. You are no longer just reading one book, you are reading the entire topic. This is not about figuring out what one author thinks. This is about understanding the entire conversation that's been happening for centuries. For example, if you wanted to understand this idea of the state, you wouldn't just read Plato's Republic. You would read The Prince. You'd read Hobbes's Leviathan. You'd read Locke's second treatise on government. Hell, you would read the US Constitution, right? And crucially, you don't come to terms with them, the authors. You bring them to terms with you, and you put them in dialogue with each other. Do they agree with each other or not? Why? How? Are their arguments sound? What would they say about each other? At this level, well, you're practically on your way to becoming a scholar because you're no longer just consuming information, consuming knowledge. You're creating knowledge. You're building these connections and you're forming your own theses. How cool is that?
Oh, that's so cool!
This is the ultimate goal of reading the so-called great books. This is how you join the great conversation of our civilization. So why is it important to read so deeply? Reading is not some academic exercise. Yeah, it is intellectual self-defense, but it is also intellectual self-actualization. How do you know what to think if you don't know what thoughts there are to think? Mastering these 4 levels gives you a toolkit to deconstruct any argument, to see beyond the surface of any text, and to challenge the ideas that are presented to you every day as a matter of fact and form your own opinion on the things that matter to you. You are no longer just a passive consumer of the world, you're a participant in it. This is how you build your own worldview and not just inherit one. Now, this video is the second part of a deep dive into this book. In the previous video linked below, we looked at the what, their legendary great books list. And now you have the how. To get you started on your journey into the great conversation, I've taken Mortimer Adler and Charles Van Doren's legendary list of 267 books and compiled the ultimate resource for you, your personal best reading companion. I've curated and I've categorized. I found analyses and videos. I put in pictures. It's completely free for you. The link is down below. Subscribe to my Substack and you will have instant access to this awesome PDF. And the coolest part is this list, this PDF I made, is a living document. Charles Van Doren and Mortimer J. Adler's legendary list is only of the Western canon. There's no Africa, there's no Asia, there's no Latin America, there's none of that. It's just the Western canon. And it ends in 1970 or something like that. 50 years have passed since then. Get in touch. Let's build this doc out together to help everyone get involved with the great conversation. I made this sick-ass document so you won't be paralyzed by not knowing where to begin or intimidated by these great books. Download it, it's completely free, and contribute to it. Help me build out this document, make it more comprehensive, and get it to as many people as possible so they can get involved too. Like, share, subscribe.